Guys, before we get into this video, I have a quick favor to ask from you. If you guys enjoy these videos and you want to support this channel, one of the best ways you can support it is by hitting the like button if you like the video. Don't hit like if you don't like it, and sharing it with everybody you know, whether it's emailing it out to a friend or tweeting it out or Facebook or Instagram or whatever. But that helps me to beat the YouTube censorship algorithm, because we know censorship is in full swing. It's not just my channel, it's a whole lot of other channels. So if you like this content and you want to support the channel, please share it with everybody you know. Now, here's the video. Okay, everybody and their brother is talking about Team Beto kicking out a Breitbart journalist from a predominantly black college. And I want to cover it too, but I don't want to cover it like they're covering it. Everybody's got their own slant. Politico's going to come at it from the left. Vox, of course, is going to come at it from the left. The Washington Examiner takes a stab at it from the right. Of course, Breitbart's going to cover it from the Zio right. And you got the Communist News Network, or the Counterfeit News Network, of course, coming at it from an all white guys are bad and they're the primary terrorists in America perspective. They're all crappy perspectives. What I want to first key in on is this post on Twitter from Beto O'Rourke himself, which does show gross hypocrisy, dated October 30th, 2018. Listen to the question that this woman asks, and then we're going to key in on the answers from Beto Male O'Rourke himself. Go.
Wondering, given the anti-media, anti-free press rhetoric that is so prevalent right now, what would you as U.S. Senator do to ensure the press is protected, journalists are protected, and that they can continue to serve as watchdogs for democracy?
Okay, what are you going to do, Beto, to make sure the press is protected and ensure their position as the watchdogs for democracy? Everybody loves the word democracy. The left uses the word democracy. We've got to protect our democracy. We have to defend our democracy. We're overseas spreading democracy. Beto's going to talk about democracy just as she talked about democracy, and everybody likes to talk about democracy. But one thing we learned from Benjamin Franklin is democracy is two wolves and a lamb deciding on what to have for dinner. Democracy is a majority rule scenario, which is inherently immoral. You do not want to defend democracy. And even though they use the word democracy as though it were synonymous with freedom, it is absolutely not. It's the antithesis of freedom. Go, Beto.
Yeah, this idea fronted by the president that somehow the press are the enemy of the people, reinforced by him tweeting out.
They are the enemy of the people, and you don't need Trump to say that and remind us of it. The press is not a free press, it's a controlled press. It's a corporately controlled press, and they are not looking out for the people. They're the enemies of the people looking out for the elite, period.
Images of a reporter being hit by a train, body slammed in a wrestling ring, is incitement to violence. I don't know any other way to call it.
You want incitement to violence? This guy's for red flag laws. He's for the TAPS Act. He's for gun confiscation. Gun confiscation and gun bans literally equal criminalizing innocent, peaceful people. That is not just an incitement to violence. That's an initiation of violence on behalf of this political parasite right here and all of his compadres.
That undermines an essential pillar of the American democracy.
There is no American democracy. We were instituted as a representative constitutional republic, not a democracy. Remember Bellamy's socialist pledge allegiance to the flag? It does not say, and to the democracy for which it stands. It says, and to the republic for which it stands.
142 years in to this audacious experiment that is the exception, not the rule in world history, that we can freely choose those who represent us and guide
we can freely choose those who will rule over us. That, you know, if you have a choice in a term of years to choose between one plantation owner and another plantation owner, that does not make you a free man. That makes you a slave who doesn't know what the hell is going on.
Course and direction that this country will take. If we don't have a free press, if we cannot make informed decisions at the ballot.
We don't have a free press, and we haven't had a free press for a long time. We all know that it's a CIA-controlled operation called Operation Mockingbird. It happened a long time ago, and it continues today. There is no free press. Guys, get it out of your head. The press is not for you. Politicians are not for you. Both of those groups, the politicians and the press, are the enemies of the people, period. And we've shown that time and time again on this channel.
Box, if you can't hold people like me accountable and make sure that we're held honest to the promises that we made, to the job that we're performing in these positions of public trust, we'll lose the very essence of our democracy.
That's a good thing. To lose the very essence of a majority rule scenario is a very good thing. To lose the essence of that which is inherently immoral is an absolutely good thing. And they're trying to defend it and they're trying to protect it.
Nothing guarantees us a 243rd or a 244th year unless all of us stand up for the institutions that make us so strong in the first place. So I think we need to vigorously defend the freedom of the press. We need to call out violations, not just in this country.
We need to vigorously defend the freedom of the corporate press. That's not freedom of the press.
In countries like Mexico, one of the most dangerous places to be a journalist, the killing of Khashoggi by the Saudi Arabian government, there has to be consequence, there has to be accountability, there has to be justice. This is our chance to lead on one of the most important issues to our democracy and to freedom around the world.
Okay, so my mistake. He said it 3 times and the lady said it 1 time. So that's a total of 4 times they talked about it's essential for, he even writes it right here. The press is not the enemy of the people. That's a lie. But the best defense against tyranny. Corporate media cannot defend you against tyranny. Why? Because their 24/7 news cycles seek to advance tyranny. You can see it in every single episode of these actors. They call them anchors, but they're really actors. Every episode that they flash in front of your face is an advancement toward tyranny. It's not a defense against tyranny. We need to vigorously defend the freedom of the press. There is no freedom of the press unless you're talking about alternative media who does not have an agenda. The only agenda that a true independent journalist has is the agenda of truth. Period. They just seek the truth. They let the chips fall where they may, and they just seek the truth. It's essential for our democracy. We don't have a democracy. Well, we do now. It is a majority rule scenario. But like Stalin said, it doesn't matter who the people vote for. Every vote is a vote for us. Now, I could read this article from Breitbart. I could read it from, I'll probably read some right here from the Washington Examiner. Vox is completely out to lunch. And of course, we know CNN is completely out to lunch. Let's just read it from the news source that we know is the enemy of the people, okay? The Beto O'Rourke campaign is not apologizing for Tuesday's removal of a Breitbart staffer from a campaign event in South Carolina. His name is Joel Pollack. So let's read from the Communist News Network. The campaign said in a statement on Wednesday that Breitbart, quote, walks the line between being news and a perpetrator of hate speech. Perpetrator of hate speech, kind of like when MSLSD has the Reverend Al Sharpton promoting his latest race-baiting rant. Yeah, that's hate speech coming from CNN, MSLSD, ABC, even Fox News engages in it. At the same time, when asked by the Communist News Network, the campaign said access will not be restricted in the future. How are we guaranteed of that? CNN's just a bunch of lying ingrates, and so is the campaign of Beta Male O'Rourke. Breitbart allies like Donald Trump Jr. have decried the treatment of Joel Pollack, a writer and radio host for the website. Numerous members of the news media, including some that object to Breitbart's far-right political advocacy as though CNN weren't far left, have also criticized the O'Rourke campaign. New York Times reporter Matthew Rosenberg wrote on Twitter, no matter what you think of Breitbart, this is wrong. And, if you think about it, essentially, this is kind of a double psychological operation because, in essence, it is wrong. If you're going to say that we champion the cause of the freedom of the press so that they can speak truth to power, which they never do, if you wanted to actually just be consistent with that, it is completely hypocritical what the Beto O'Rourke campaign did to this Breitbart guy. We just have to be honest with that. No campaign should be deciding who gets to cover its events. And that would be true. It's kind of true under the veil of the psychological operation that's going on here, but it's also true in reality. If you really want to be examined, let people who would ask you the hard questions in. What do you have to fear? If you're standing on the truth, if you've got nothing to hide, if you're being completely honest, if you're pure in your motives, why should you care that a Breitbart guy is there or a CNN guy is there? You could field any question you want because you're not hiding anything. Everything's out in the open. Everything's in the light. Sunlight is the greatest disinfectant. You don't care. You don't fear anything. You don't fear any scrutiny because you're on the side of truth. And maybe, just maybe, you've fallen short of the truth. And these people who are, quote unquote, against you can shed some light on it. Maybe they have some truth that you can stuff under your belt and use it for another day because, like I said, your agenda is truth. You don't care what people say. You don't care what criticisms come. You have an answer for it. And if you don't, you're just going to be honest. You're not hiding anything. So it's extremely disingenuous for the beta male O'Rourke campaign to oust this Breitbart guy. Even under the veil of psychological operations. An event is either open to the press or it is not. That's true. Freedom of the press is not a conditional right. It applies to every American regardless of their views. This guy comes from the New York Times. Yeah, that includes the Second Amendment too there, Matthew Rosenberg and CNN. It's not a conditional right to keep and bear arms. It's not a conditional right for freedom of press. It's not a conditional right to be secure in your person's houses, papers, and effects. So see how they shift, even with the amendments? Oh yeah, sure, the reporters are going to go for the First Amendment, but they'll easily let go of the Second Amendment. They don't mind violating your rights on the Second Amendment, but they don't want their rights violated on the First Amendment because they're press, and that's their bread and butter. If they lose their job and they can't do what they've been hired to do, they're going to starve. So they have a vested interest. Rarely will somebody come to the knowledge of the truth and understand and embrace the truth when getting a paycheck depends on them not embracing the truth. And that's what you see with CNN. That's what you see with the New York Times. If it works in their favor, they'll stand in the corner of people, even people that they say they hate. Press access has been politicized in an era in which the president and his allies routinely exclude reporters from certain events and suspends access to the White House. Most recently, the White House press secretary, Stephanie Grisham, suspended the hard pass of Playboy columnist Brian Karem over a confrontation at the Rose Garden. You guys remember that? We covered that. Breitbart is a far-right website with has a history. Come on, straighten it up there. Straighten up the grammar there, CNN. Breitbart is a far-right website which has a history of publishing misleading stories about Democrats and Trump critics. The site also has close ties to the Trump administration, and many of its writers have gone on to work in the White House. Oh, like you didn't when Obama was president, and you didn't when Hillary was running for president? Because if you guys remember, I'm not going to play the clip right now, but Chris Cuomo got on there and he said that we, speaking of CNN and corporate media, are the biggest supporters of the Hillary Clinton campaign. That automatically makes them a biased, quote unquote, news outlet. And they have the gall to say the site, Breitbart, has close ties to the Trump administration. Well, how much closer can you get to the Hillary Clinton campaign than being the biggest supporter of her campaign? During the 2016 campaign, its chairman, Stephen Bannon, went on to work for the Trump campaign as CEO, later Bannon. Okay, so they have this right here. Pollock, who also serves as Breitbart's senior editor-at-large, famously confronted Joe Biden recently on the campaign trail, accusing the Democratic candidate of misquoting Trump's statement on neo-Nazis. Okay, so we got more stuff going on here, but I want to get to the meat of this. Pollock wrote in a post published Tuesday that described the incident from his perspective. Several minutes after the 3 p.m. event had been scheduled to begin, a staff member in a Beta O'Rourke t-shirt approached this reporter and asked what outlet I represented. A few minutes later, a campus police officer approached him and brought him outside. CNN's Carolyn Kenny witnessed part of the incident, and she says, quote, about 10 minutes before the event started, a police officer walked in with an advanced staffer and they asked him to come with them. He never came back into the room, she said. According to Pollock, an O'Rourke staffer, quote, said that I was being ejected because I had been disruptive at past events. Pollock denied being disruptive. Now, guys, you see this a lot. But the bottom line to this whole thing is we have to keep in mind that this is a psychological operation. You have one false news outlet ousting another false news outlet. You have one individual rights trampling campaign manager basically ousting a false news outlet. And everybody's all upset about it. What they should be upset about is that this quote unquote free press isn't saying anything substantial to these candidates and really holding their feet to the fire, really speaking truth to power. When was the last time you heard any quote unquote freedom of the press reporter ask any candidate, what are you going to do about the IRS? How soon can we expect you to eliminate the IRS when you get into said position? When are you going to do something about the Zionist international banking cartel that's driving our economy into the ground? You'll never hear that. Why? Because the press and the politicians are in the pockets of the bankers. On Wednesday, O'Rourke's National Press Secretary, Aaliyah Cavalier, issued this explanation. Beto for America believes in the right to a free press and works hard to ensure the campaign reflects that. However, whether it's dedicating an entire section of their website to black crime as though that didn't exist, inferring that immigrants are terrorists, oh, hey, why don't you, CNN, refer to Don Lemon saying that white guys radicalized to the right are the biggest terror threat on American soil? Bunch of hypocrites. Or using derogatory terms to refer to LGBTQ people. Breitbart News walks the line between being news and a perpetrator of hate speech, the very thing the Communist News Network is guilty of, objectively guilty of. Given this particular Breitbart employee's previous hateful reporting and the sensitivity of the topics being discussed with students at an HBCU, and check this out, a campaign staffer made the call to ask him to leave. Why? To ensure that the students, the primarily black students attending the event, felt comfortable and safe while sharing their experiences as young people of color. I don't know about you, and if you're black, weigh in on this, but if I was a black guy, I would be pretty miffed that somebody thought they could step in as my political parent and try to protect me with fresh rounds of censorship to keep from hurting my feelings and to make me feel comfortable and to keep me really, really safe against words that could hurt me and from alternative views that could expand my understanding. This is total BS. This right here tells me that the beta male O'Rourke campaign thinks black people are sensitive, snowflakey sissies. I wouldn't tolerate that, guys. And actually, if you think about it, this sounds very racist to me. It was very racist for the beta male O'Rourke campaign to oust a Breitbart press guy to make colored people feel comfortable and safe. Holy cow. I am going to leave this story right here. Leave your thoughts about this for the world and the Google Thought Police in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys in the next heavily censored shadow ban video.